Story 1. The rain was coming down in sheets as I fumbled with the front door key. Most people would never think of putting a deadbolt lock on an old cabin in the middle of the woods, but my father was not like most people. Mitchell, my 10-year-old that didn't want to make the long drive, stood next to me, an irritated traveler. "Dad, I'm getting soaked," Mitchell said, dripping. "Just a sec, buddy," I blurted from a wet mouth. A moment later, presto, the door was open. A strike of lightning illuminated the living room briefly, and I was able to grab the kerosene lamp hanging on a nail near the front door. As I struck a match and lit it, I could see the wisdom of renting the place out periodically. Cobwebs were only marginally evident, and the layer of dust on the table, chairs and wood stove was only slightly thicker than a wrestler's neck. I threw Mitchell the matchbook and motioned for him to light the lantern on the far wall. I took my trusty Zippo and lit the lantern on the near wall, next to the door leading to the only other room in the place. A bedroom, with the only other exit to the place, a back door. "What are we doing way out here, Dad?" Mitchell asked, with that lilt in his voice I wasn't fond of hearing. "We're meeting somebody, Mitchell." "Out here? Who? Bigfoot?" "Look, Mitch, lose the attitude." "Dad, I'm wet, I'm cold, I'm probably going to miss my music lesson, and I'm allergic to dust. I'm sorry if I'm not a lot of fun to be around right now," Mitchell said, treading a thin line. "So, who are we here to see? And don't tell me one of your doctor friends, this isn't the Hyatt Regency." "Somebody I haven't seen in a long time, somebody I thought I'd never see again." "Sounds like you don't want to see him too much now," he said, looking at me quizzically. "Let's just say where Bryson Ambile is concerned, it pays to be cautious." "Ambile? Is he a relative?" asked Mitchell. We had left the door ajar when we entered, and now it began to swing open. Bryson, my twin brother, stood in the doorway, clad in a black leather jacket and jeans, and strangely wearing an oversized pair of dark sunglasses on this most overcast of afternoons. That was fast becoming dusk. "Yeah," he said in answer to Mitchell's question. "The kind of relative they don't talk about. How goes it? Harlan?" "Always liked a dramatic entrance, didn't you, Bryson?" "They're the best kind, bro," he said, as he closed the front door. It was then he noticed Mitchell. "Who's the munchkin? I told you to come alone." "Jesus, Dad, he looks just like you," Mitchell said, his anger fast turning into fascination. "Mitchell, this is your uncle, Bryson Ambile," I said, trying to sound positive. "Whoa, a twin? You never even said you had a brother." "I don't doubt that," said Bryson as he looked Mitchell up and down. "Mitchell? You named him after the old man. How typical," Bryson snorted as he began to light his cigarette. "Yes, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't smoke around him." "You smoke?" "Did. Keep a Zippo in my pocket as a reminder not to. I'd like to keep my fourth grader's lungs clean if you don't mind." "Anything you say, Harlan," Bryson said as he snapped the top closed on a black lighter with a skull and crossbones on it. "Although, I didn't ask you to bring him. Since his mother died last year, where I go, he goes." "How do you ever take a shower?" Bryson responded. Besides, I thought he might like to meet his only living relative. "If you can call this living," Bryson said under his breath as he straddled one of the chairs next to the table. He began fiddling with the cigarette still in his mouth and noticed me watching him. "Do you mind if I just let it dangle from my mouth?" "Pleased to meet you, Uncle Bryson," said Mitchell, offering his small right hand. "Looks like you've trained him well enough," Bryson said, looking past Mitchell as though he wasn't there. "But this isn't about your progeny. This is important. Oh, I'd say he's pretty important. Guess you've never been a father," I said, as I saw Mitchell awkwardly withdraw his outstretched hand and walk back to my side. "I've never been a fire hydrant either, but that doesn't mean I don't know what it's like to get pissed on," Bryson shot back. Thoughts of our dad's volatile relationship with Bry swirled in my head. The time right here in this cabin when we had just turned 7 and Dad brought us up here for the first time to fish. Bry had gotten a hook stuck through his thumb. Dad made him pull it out himself without breaking off the tip. It left a scar, in so many ways. "Look, Bry, I'm sorry you and Dad weren't close, but you brought it on yourself sometimes with that damn chicken shit attitude," I said, after the memory parade had calmed down a bit. "Hey, no prob, Harley. Dad liked you. Mum liked you. Even the dog liked you best. Of course I didn't give a shit about Mum and the old man," But I really liked that German Shepherd, Bryson said. Not that I care, but where has Biker Boy been for so long? Mitchell chimed in. I don't know, Mitchell. Your Uncle Bryson disappeared fresh out of school. He was a genius in genetics research even back then. All his professors said so. Rumor had it he was recruited by the government. You mean this guy's a doctor like you? Mitchell said, disbelieving. Oh, he's a doctor all right, Mitch, but not like me. Yeah, my patients occasionally live, Bryson said, cutting me off. My dad's an oncologist, said Mitchell, seething. He helps people who have cancer and saves a lot of them. What do you do, big man, besides suck on cigarettes? Take it easy, Mitchell, I said, trying to restrain myself from hugging my newfound defender. Okay, Bryson, cut to the chase. Why here? Why now? After all these years, why not Mum's funeral? Why not Dad's? You know why not Dad's, Bryson snarled. Okay, but even if you were still upset with them, Christ, I'm your brother. Why didn't you try to contact me before now? Then this afternoon, out of the blue, and you asked me to meet you way out here. What's the story? It's a long one. Mind if I smoke? Said Bryson. Yes, Mitchell and I barked in unison. Like father, like son, like asshole, Bryce said, putting away his lighter. But enough about you, Mitchell retorted. Cool it, Mitch, I said, trying to calm him down. Why should I? I've never met this guy before in my life, and after 5 minutes with him, I'm hoping he stays away for the rest of my life, Mitchell said. He seems to have inherited the old man's charm too, Bryson said, smirking. It was like there had to be one bad son and one good one, and I was elected to be the bad one, the outsider, the screw-up. Well, after a while, Harley, you walk around with a tag like that, you begin to believe it. Man, and I thought I was feeling sorry for myself for making the trip out here, Mitchell piped up, still on attack mode. I take it the words discipline and respect aren't used often in your house, but I guess since Debbie bit the big one, it's been tough to keep the boy in line, eh? Bryson said. Don't you ever talk about my mother, Mitchell said, glaring at Bryson. Bryson took a long look at Mitchell, who facially resembled Deborah, but in the eyes and hair color, he was us at that age, and Bry could see it. You know, I can believe a lot of things about you, Bryson. I can believe you've been working underground for Uncle Sam all these years. I can believe you hated your family so much. You didn't even bother to tell them if you were alive or dead your entire adult life. But I can't really believe you contacted me after 13 years, had me drive out to meet you so far out in the woods, the coyotes avoid it, just to open up old wounds, I said, wanting to get to the bottom of this. No, not old wounds. Send the boy away and I'll explain it to you. And where is he supposed to send me? Summer camp? Mitchell said, reminding me of his uncle more and more. Mitchell, go wait in the car, I said. But, Dad, and Mitchell motioned for me to lean down next to him. Dad, he's a space case. I don't think I should leave you alone with him, he whispered. My mind went to the small caliber handgun I had tucked away in an ankle holster, a bit of insurance against my own brother's warped nature. I'll be okay. Just wait in the car so we can get this over and done with, I whispered back. Okay, but be careful, he whispered to me. At least there's a heater in there, Mitchell said loudly, as though now wanting to go to the car. Bryson must have noticed the sarcastic similarities between he and my son as well, because, though I couldn't see his eyes behind those mirrored lenses, he followed Mitchell's movements all the way out the door. He opened his mouth as though he wanted to say something to Mitchell, but as the door closed, he simply turned away and crushed the cigarette he had just taken from his mouth, then checked his watch. Okay, we're alone. What kind of trouble are you in? I said. Is that the only reason you think I'd call? Am I wrong? No, not at all. You always were the one to bail me out, since before we were Mitchell's age, he said, then looked at his scarred thumb. It hurts, Daddy. It really hurts, he said in a faraway voice. Then he looked at me. You always tried to help at least. Always managed to keep your coattails clean, though. Only this time, I got us both in trouble. What do you mean, Bry? Shadow Lake, Kentucky, a genetics research facility there. That's where I've been the last 10 years, experimenting with a gene splicing technique for military application, trying to create the ultimate soldier, Bryson said soberly. You mean genetically crossing animals? No, bro, humans. Government-sanctioned mutations. You see, no matter how intelligent an animal is, it needs the human element to be an effective assassin. I listened as Bryson laid his cards out on the table. The history of the Shadow Lake Project, as it had come to be called, how they first experimented with terminally ill prisoners in exchange for posthumous payments to their families on the outside. But no matter how they altered them, how strong, how fast, how deadly they made them, they would all eventually succumb to the disease that was killing them. But I wasn't ready for what he said next. That's when my superiors got greedy. You see, in order for the experiment to keep its funding, they had to have some evidence of the long-term effect of the mutation, so they started using healthy lifers, or death row inmates. When I heard about it, I suggested they subject all potential recipients to a psyche screening first, to weed out the absolute wackos, Bryson said, seemingly pained to recall it. And did they? I asked. Hell no. To be honest, Harley, how many habitual offenders and death row inmates do you think could have passed? So, we had the dregs of the Kentucky prison system lined up to become the most powerful creatures on Earth, and we gave them that power. Never thinking. He stopped short, then said again, never thinking. He then poured out a tale that would make Mary Shelley turn over in her grave, of men who looked normal, but were endowed with unbelievable strength, speed, eyesight, hearing, or tenacity. Then he spoke of the failures, beings just as powerful as the others, but horribly disfigured by the treatment, monstrous man-beasts that would sometimes go mad at their lack of humanity, or was it the researchers that were lacking in that? He spoke of a revolt by these hybrids, which had taken to calling themselves the Shadow Men. So they took over the facility, killed most of my colleagues, except for Marienthal and few other key players like me, he said, chewing on his knuckles like he used to when we were kids and we were in trouble. Who's Marienthal? I asked. Project director. They keep him alive to keep reporting into our liaison. They took over 2 months ago, and the powers that be haven't got a clue that anything's wrong up there. I saw a chance to escape last week and I took it. Been on the run ever since, dodging them and trying to find you. Why? And if they're as deadly as you say they are, how did you manage to get out of there without a scratch? I asked. Just lucky, I guess, he said, as he took off his sunglasses to reveal a gnarled left eye. From the condition of the wound, I'd say it was about a week old. Let me take a look at that. Damn it, Harlan, don't you get it? He said, cutting me off and not allowing me to examine what was left of his eye. We instilled in every hybrid a tracking sense. They track by genetic code. It was supposed to keep them from eliminating the wrong target in the field, but it never worked right. They always had problems with similar genetic codes, like those found in close family or... He stopped short and looked at me. Twins, I finished for him. Is that how I'm involved in this sick nightmare, Bry? There are shadow men all over the country now, some that can blend in, some that can't. They're targeting me now that I've escaped. Figured I at least owed you a warning, bro, Bryson said. I looked into his grey-blue eyes, just like mine, just like Mitchell's, and I knew, as insane as it sounded, what he had just recounted to me was the truth. All except this last part. This altruistic trek across the country to warn me wasn't in his nature 13 years ago, and I had my doubts that this experience had changed him for the better. I watched him as he moved across the room to the door leading to the bedroom, and leaned against the wall in his usual cocksure manner that I remembered all too well from our days growing up. Nerves had given way to something else, but what? This is bullshit, Bryson. You wouldn't cross the street to give me a warning, much less cross the country. You say the shadow men are all over different parts of the country, but the odds of them looking for you and finding me were remote. That is, unless they were after you, and you came here, led them right to me. So, what are you really doing here? Bryson, I said, already knowing the answer. Surviving, bro. Surviving, he said, checking his watch again, as though he had someplace else to be. And, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I wanted to kill him, but I needed answers first. How close were they to him now? Did they have any weaknesses? Could local authorities be of any help if they could be made to believe this story? Then the lightning flashed outside, and I remembered the son I had waiting in the car. The son I had done my best to ignore at the time of his greatest pain, when he lost his mother. The son who at that moment walked in through the door. "Mitchell!" I cried, as I saw his wavering, bloodied body stagger towards me. "Dad," he said weakly, as he dropped like a stone in the middle of the floor. beginning to shake involuntarily. It hurts. Dad, it really hurts. His clothes were slashed, like he'd been attacked by a tiger. He was bleeding from his ears, nose, and mouth. I knew he had severe cranial trauma, and as he began to convulse, and those grey-blue eyes rolled backwards, one thought filled my mind, all-encompassing and all-consuming. "Bryson!" I screamed, not knowing that he had already slipped out the back door and away from the danger. My brother was gone, just like my son, as I watched his blue-grey eyes roll back, and he breathed one last time. I looked up to see the silhouette of a misshapen creature as it stood in the doorway, my boy's blood still dripping from its teeth. "Good evening, Dr. Ambeal," it said in a deep, guttural voice. I drew my gun and fired before it could lunge. Every bullet in every chamber found its mark, felling the creature. Thus began my pursuit. Fueled by my hatred, the Shadow Men wouldn't kill Bryce and I would. Story 2. Lindsay worked up the nerve to lift her head off the beast's shoulder and stared at the sign affixed to the fence ahead of her. The surrounding undergrowth had bloomed into prairie grass, the green blades of which plastered themselves unevenly along the rotting wooden stakes. Beyond the fence, floor lights peppered dust in hues and shades of various blue. An announcer no further than a mile away bellowed names of one musician after another, suppressing giggles in an ever-increasing octave. If his voice was anything to go by, it was clear he was under the influence. "Put your hands together for Rosie." The audience roared and whooped. Lindsay turned. The beast's previously uncharacteristic gentleness suddenly made sense then. Why he had urgently turned to her and made it clear that she would enter this festival disguised as a man. She couldn't help but stare at the woman behind her, at her breasts spilling over the leather corset tightened to her waist. "Damn it, Lindsay. Get it together. Don't stare, don't stare, don't stare, don't..." Lindsay, redder than a fresh cherry tomato, looked away as soon as the thought came to her. She looked front again. Employees dressed in black, with nothing more noticeable than lanyards hanging around their necks, wrote down names in a plastic folder and handed badges to each person by the entrance. Once a person received their badge, they were allowed into the festival, and the line moved further along. Other employees paced up and down the line, scanning for any rule breakers, particularly for any fully dressed women. One employee stopped beside Birhor, Lindsay, and her beast. He squinted up at her. She shifted her eyes left, then back at the employee. "What up?" she said in the most baritone octave she could muster. "Are you a woman?" The employee crossed his arms. Lindsay tensed her shoulders and pointed at the folded wheelchair attached to Birhor's saddle. "You see that fucker?" She made sure to pour her gaze into the employee. "Tell me, what's that?" "A wheelchair." "Uh-huh. Therefore I can't be a woman." Lindsay prayed that combined sexism and ableism would work in her favor. The employee raised an eyebrow. He gestured at Lindsay's hips. "Then where's your dick?" "How dare you!" Birhor chimed in. The beast followed in outmatched offense. "This brave young man got his dick blown off by the Chinese, you fucking animal, and you just had to bring that up, didn't you? You just had to remind him of his dickless predicament." "Why do you think he possesses metal chair, Do you think it is for fun? Do you think he sits in chair for easy life? No. You're going to remind him of all those months watching his poor little dick rot away thanks to those lying Asian ladies," the beast went on. "He is not soldier." "No, he was. But we are not at war with China right now, are we, Birhor? He was on leave. He met a nice lady who wasn't a nice lady at all." Oh, yes, we are not in war, and that lady was not nice, as you say." "That's right. So..." The beast circled his arms around themselves in a manic fury. Lindsay froze up and gazed out in the distance, as though caught in memories of times since past. "Oh God, no, not my dick. I don't want an amputation. No, not the prostitutes. Wah!" Birhor neighed in and stomped a hoof. "You compare him to Chinese prostitute, you monster!" Okay, I'm sorry. With raised hands, the employee quickly turned and ran off further down the line. "That's right," the beast called out. "Get your racist ass out of here!" Once the employee was out of earshot, Lindsay pressed her hand against her fluttering heart and exhaled. "Fuck, beast, I don't know if I can do this." Yes, you can, the beast whispered back. Now come on, give me your best man voice. Lindsay coughed. I'm a man. Lower. I'm a man. Even lower. I'm a man. I like to watch sports, eat ass and wiggle my non-existent dick around. Pwah! Lindsay spat on the floor by Beerhaw's hooves. There you go. The beast patted her arm reassuringly. Very manly. You got this. You think... sorry. You think they got any vodka in there? Lindsay continued to keep her voice as lowly a register as she could. Probably. It is festival after all, said Beerhaw. Perhaps here I can understand the fullness of Beerhaw and how much horse or bird Beerhaw truly is. Right, said Lindsay. Beast, why did you do that to Beerhaw? I already told you. But that was so unnecessary, you didn't have to make him self-aware. Do not fret, little, Louis. Beerhaw shall understand himself soon enough. I hope you too shall know yourself by the end of this night. Well, thank you, Beerhaw. The queue moved forward. A gesture, a name written, a badge handed, and so on, a repeating humdrum as the clock ticked ever forward. Soon enough, the trio were at the front of the entrance. Name? Louis? Louis. Louis what? Louis? Got it. Lindsay's fake name was written on the sheet attached to the plastic folder, and her fake name, Louis, was stamped onto a badge in faded red. The employee handed it over with half a smile. Lindsay plastered it on her black zipped-up sweater. Now remember, you can fuck, punch and swear all you want, but if you even so much whisper anything insensitive about blacks or gays, we will stomp the absolute fuck out of you and steal your social security number. Got it? Lindsay nodded. Got it. Oh, and leave the horse out here. Beerhaw's mechanical red eyes widened. What? Why? No Russians allowed. And you sound Russian. Stay the fuck out, horse. I am not horse, I am Beerhaw. I don't give a shit what you are. I don't like your accent, so you're staying out here with the other pieces of shit who think they can get in with the festival, all right? It is not even Russian accent. It is generally Eastern European. I have consciousness of bird. I am not sovereign citizen of any... Before Beerhaw could continue, two security men grabbed him by the saddle. The beast hopped off and pulled out Lindsay's wheelchair. Lindsay twisted and lifted one leg over the other before sliding off the saddle and plopping into her wheelchair. The security guards shoved Beerhaw out of line into a group of previous rejects toward the edge of the stage. The beast shifted and led Lindsay through the entrance in spite of her protests for Beerhaw. We'll check on him later, okay? The beast told her. By the edge of the stage, one of the rejects was a bald monk who held a foul-smelling ceramic bowl. He seemed rather transfixed by the contents within, gazing upon it in longing and wonder. Beerhaw sniffed. Is that shit? The monk broke his gaze and smiled up at the mechanical horse. Why, yes, my friend. Why do you carry bowl of shit, monk? This is no mere bowl of shit, my friend. This bowl of shit is but one thread in the tapestry of all that is and all that ever will be. Just one of the many aspects of the divine. And for me to fully know and appreciate the divine, I must consume it. The monk lifted the bowl close to his lips, but stopped. Yet I can't. I would like to know God in every way a person can, but it doesn't seem to be the right time. Is this why you were not allowed in, for eating bowl of shit? Actually, my friend, I decided to wait here. Call it intuition, luck, a hunch, whatever you must. I had a feeling I would meet another traveler on my journey. The monk scanned Beerhaw from mane to flank. My spiritual practice, it is one hidden in shadow, unappreciated, bizarre, one where a person must know themselves absolutely to know God. Is that what you're seeking? To know yourself fully? Beerhaw lifted his head, his eyes wide with intrigue. Tell Beerhaw more of this spiritual practice, shitmonk. With pleasure, my friend. Shitmonk gestured and began to walk off stage into the darkness of the eldritch audience. Beerhaw, not knowing any better to not trust strange monks he just met, followed closely. The stage shifted again, this time expanding from center outward until the surrounding fence and parallel queues were pushed out of view of the stage lights. The eldritch audience sitting in red velvet chairs were pulled back to make further room for the expansion, akin to a tide in preparation for an oncoming tsunami. On stage, as though terraformed from nothing, mass reached up and made stationary escarpment from elements of the retreating kind below. A secondary platform center stage was born for the scene. Crowds came running forth, arms raised and mouths squealing. "Rosie, Rosie, Rosie, Rosie," they chanted, chins raised, smiles gleaming. Near the leftmost red curtain the beast pointed. Lindsay beheld the platform as a woman came running up terraformed steps. Pale, with bouncy blonde hair curled around her neck, the sweat-caked woman lifted an arm and catered to the crowd. "You want an encore?" she shouted. The crowd roared back. "Really? Oh geez, I thought I sang everything. Oh, I didn't. You sure? Oh wait, you're right. I guess I did forget a little something." Rosie turned her head left and smirked, pleased with her ability to rile up her fan base. She adjusted her corset to barely hide the lower half of her breasts and straightened her pantyhose, ensuring no part of herself would be exposed by an accidental misstep or incorrectly timed jump. The beginning of her song set a dark, atmospheric tone in minor key. Piano synths echoed in all directions until a fast, heavy bass kicked in, shifting the key from minor to major. The crowd clapped and jumped in tune. When the bass slowed, Rosie held a cordless microphone close to her thick lips. "In the abyss of my own mind I dwell. In echoes and shadows the secrets I tell. I am the beginning and the space in between. Dreaming universes to escape what's been seen." Rosie jumped and shifted her frame left and right to the tune of the song as the bass picked up pace again. Fractured myself into whispers and dust. Built worlds of chaos from pure burning trust. A canvas of void where I splinter and play. To bury the silence that haunts me each day. Flame projectors blew fire and heat toward the sky. Rosie tilted her head back and reached out, losing herself in the moment. I am the all, the nothing, the breath. Cracking my mirror to scatter my depth. Endless creation to mask my despair. For nothing but me exists anywhere. Rosie lurched forward, smiling wickedly. She began to sing in an alto octave. Galaxies spiral, they're pieces of me. Stars are my thoughts exploding wildly free. Every lover, every killer, each time. Just fragments of me seeking places to hide. She reached out toward the crowd, her grin expanding thrice. "Come on, sing with me." Stage lights in multicolored tangoed across Rosie's thin frame. I dreamt of angels and demons with fire. Constructed mortals to love, then expire. All just illusions to keep me from truth. That I am the cage and I am trapped in my proof. "Come on!" She jumped and swung her head as the crowd joined her in dance, and for the last chorus. I am the all, the nothing, the breath. Cracking my mirror to scatter my depth. Endless creation to mask my despair. For nothing but me exists anywhere. The crowd roared and stomped. Arms and hands of thousands reached toward the starlit woman. Though she reached out in tandem, she did not touch, merely gracing these strangers with her beauty. She blew kisses and placed her hand on her hip, posing with her good side. Seizure-inducing white flashes surrounded her, though she kept her pose and composure even still. She was Rosie, and the world was hers. Lindsay crossed her arms, a mix of resentment and longing leaving her head hung. She wouldn't be able to dance and move across the stage like Rosie had. Nor did she feel any sense of empowerment in exposing herself so thoroughly for a crowd. Not that people wanted to see that from a wheelchair user, Lindsay mused bitterly. Rosie seemed so untouchable, a goddess upon that stage, as though these fans were her heavenly fortress rather than heretics waiting in earnest to consume her whole. A good portion of those who praised her equally desired to use her, just as most people used idols and psalms to ease the guilt of their behaviors. Lindsay's heart fluttered and pounded in her chest again. Being here wasn't a good idea. It couldn't be. She didn't know how to engage in a one-on-one conversation, much less a crowd. Who the hell was she kidding to pursue being a musician as a career? Why had she allowed her beast to convince herself this was smart, much less good for her? The beast hunched over her and met her gaze halfway. He cracked a mischievous grin. "You look like you could use a drink. Want to find a bar?" Lindsay nodded vigorously. She grabbed her wheels and turned them forward, scanning the grounds. Cliques chattered among themselves. Booths and queues took up much of the space, and there was a dining area with a bar off in the corner. Lindsay exhaled and looked over her shoulder at the terraformed platform again. For a moment, Rosie's once confident demeanor fell as her eyes lowered and her smile gave way to exhaustion. Perhaps that was a mirage. "Rosie!" a man shrieked. Lindsay jumped. The man broke through the waves of bodies and faces, clambering up toward her in a stained grey shirt and jeans. "Rosie, I love you, Rosie. We're meant to be together, Rosie. It's me, Tim, the love of your life. Oh, please, Rosie, you don't know how badly I need you, baby." Rosie just smiled and backed away. "Thank you," she said. "That's very kind. Have you read any of my letters?" Tim pulled himself up closer. Security guards rushed the stage and stood at Rosie's side. "Please, Rosie, tell me you've read them." "I've read them. They're very nice, Tom," she said in a sugar-sweet tone. The security team grabbed Tim by his shoulders and yanked him away from Rosie. "Rosie, Rosie, please, we're meant to be together. I love you." Lindsay squinted, watching Rosie's shoulders tense. It seemed she held back a shudder. Lindsay turned to her beast. "It's just the album, part 2, right? We're just here for that and potential networking. That's all we're here for." The beast nodded. "Okay, good. Because if I ever so much as see you even remotely act anything like that psychotic fuckface over there, I swear to God I'll never speak to you again." The beast rolled his eyes. "I'm not delusional, Lindsay. Besides, it's not exactly the album we've been fixated on. It's our own version, remember? Or has the festival unraveled your mind already?" "No, I know." She curled her hands into fists on her lap. "But I need to know that's all it'll be. I need you to remember that all of this is just about art, not the artists. We don't need to sink into a crowd and become one of the many sycophants. We're just here for 2 things, and that's it." I think I'd rather kill myself than act anything like that greasy old fuck. But thanks for the extra warning, hun. I'll take it into consideration. Now, about that drink. Story 3. Every time you make a choice, it creates a different reality, another you. 100 miles out of Tennessee and 20 miles from a friendly face, I have to think what would have happened if I shocked instead of jived. Every headlight that I saw, I ducked down, wondering if this was the one to lay me down. It wasn't no time for black folk here, and I asked myself if we ever would get our day. The sun gave me a little solace when I saw it peeking its face over the horizon, because most tended to like to do dark deeds in the dark. Maybe they thought God might not notice. When I got a gander at the milepost, I realized I walked 10 goddamn miles the wrong way. I sat at the fork in the road for a spell, not ready to make another reality just yet. Another choice. I sat on a wooden post and pulled my guitar from my back. I played a few licks to distract myself from the long trek I was going to have to make back the other way. Not a minute later, I saw a big lady coming up the road a piece. She wore a black dress, like she was dolled up for a funeral, and a big, wide-brimmed black hat, as if she were ready for Sunday service. I was curious why this woman was walking along the same path as me, in a place nobody with faces like ours should be. She met me at the crossroad and stopped even before I stopped her. "How you?" she said with focus and determination. "Oh, just living, baby girl. What brings you down this way? Did your car give up on you too?" "No, I came for you. You called me is all." I looked up at her with a raised eyebrow. My hand was mid-strum. "No, girl, I didn't call you," I said. "You did. You stood right here in that crossroads there and strummed that guitar. You called me." "Girl, I didn't call you?" I said again. Big Mama shrugged a shoulder, turned, and began to make her way back up the road. Before she made 2 good steps, I stopped her. "Hold on there, baby girl. Maybe I can help you find who you were looking for. You don't need to be walking alone out here before daybreak. Ain't no telling what white folk will do to you." She smiled and turned back around. "Such a gentleman. You don't get too many of those these days. Besides, I should rest 'cause these dogs are barking," she said, leaning up on the fence and kicking off her shoes. She was short and wide, but that only made her sturdy when the wind blew, is what I said. "So who are you looking for, girl?" I asked. "Devon Jackson," she said, dumping out a pebble from her shoe. "That is my name, but I didn't call you. Seems like a hell of a coincidence that someone had my name that was supposed to be at this place." "Not really. You sitting at a crossroads playing a guitar. You obviously called me. So what you want? And I don't mean to be rude, but could you tell me before the sun come up? Lord knows I deal with enough heat." I had heard plenty of legends about blues men and crossroads deals. It's been in every TV show and every movie that ever had shit to do with a blues man. Are you saying that you're a crossroads demon? I'm not saying it, but I'm not sugar. Now what you want, she said. I smiled. Why not play along? I walked 10 miles and didn't feel like walking another. What can I ask for? Whatever. Don't matter. So, is the bigger the thing I ask for, the more I have to pay, or is it a flat fee? Flat fee? I get your soul regardless of what you ask for, so make it good, she said. I couldn't help but laugh, but a part of me was curious to see where this woman was willing to take it. What if I ask for something big, like I want to make myself king of the world or something? It's in my power to do. You see, that don't make sense to me. What if someone asked to be made the king of the world? Then another person asked for that same thing. Who would be the one to get it? The woman smiled as if amused by this line of questioning, but her amusement dropped just as fast when she saw the sun getting up there. You don't need to worry about none of that. Just make your wish and I'll give it to you. Or don't. It's not like I have a quota to fill, she said. So where are you from, girl? I asked. Big Mama slowly and dramatically pointed her finger to the ground. You know what it is, baby. Now do you want something or not? What if I wished for a world without white folk in it? Oh, now we talking. That's a good one, she said as if excited. It's a 10-year contract, after which I get your soul. No crying, no appeals. I come for you, I get it. Don't have my ass running all over West Hell to find your ass, she said. I chuckled and strummed my guitar, still unconvinced, though when the contract appeared in a puff of black smoke, I certainly began to. What the hell? I yelled out. The hell indeed, she said, producing a pen from the ether. Are you telling me you're a demon and you work for the devil? I asked. When did you hear me say that? She said with a smile. I must admit your wish isn't what I was expecting. I usually get I want to be rich, famous, irresistible to the opposite sex, or superpowered, she went on to say. Look, I don't do this often, but why don't you tell me why you want it, because I must say I'm extremely curious. I put down my guitar, leaning it on the mile marker, then stopped to think about it. Confidentially, I was just speaking out of my ass, but if this was something real, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this for my people. Or maybe I'd just fuck it all up. What the hell? If she wanted an explanation, I didn't mind bending her ear a bit. Black folk in America been on the bottom rung of society ever since I can remember. We were slaves. We were outcast. We weren't even people to white folk. And any time we have a leader rise up, they either get killed or character assassinated, I said. Preach it, brother. Amen, she said as if I was holding court. If we were just out here without a white person in sight, maybe we could uplift ourselves, I said. Big Mama smiled. I don't know how that's going to turn out for you, but I know for damn sure it's going to be interesting, she said. What exactly does taking my soul mean? I mean, like, technically, I don't want to assume nothing because it sounds really bad. Does it, though? Do you know what hell is? I shook my head. I had seen the depictions and heard the stories, but I didn't know what normal man could. Hell is doing the same thing over and over and never moving forward. Boy, you've been in hell and so have your people. Your people, not our people. Baby girl, we in the same boat, I said. Oh, this is a shell. I became someone you would trust. We don't have genders where I'm from, she said. Now I was more confused than when I started. Then what exactly do you get out of it? You know I've been doing this for years and nobody asked why I want what I want. They just assume demon from hell and I get their soul. I just want to see the simulation run for the sake of posterity, she said. The simulation? Yes, the simulation. I'll put you in it and let it play out for 10 years. Your collective consciousness runs it, and that's about how much you can take before you shut down. So you make another world? Of course I do. How can everyone be the world's biggest rock star or the best? Whatever. So you just want to see it play out? Yes. Then can I back out of the contract then? Technically you can, but most people tend not to. But you know what? I'll put a clause in your contract that you can back out at any time. How does that sound? I smiled. If I could back out at any time, I couldn't conceive of a downside. As far as I was concerned, it was just a thought experiment. I looked over the contract like a hawk. I'm not a smart man, but I couldn't be said to be no dummy either. The wording was clear and concise, so simple that even a child could understand it. Are we good to go? She asked. I was ready. I took the pen and signed the contract. There wasn't a grand explosion or mist and smoke. The woman just folded the contract neatly, then it disappeared. "All right, I'll see you in 10 years, and if you ever want out, all you have to do is come back to this crossroads and say so," she said. She looked at the sun and shielded her eyes. "Boy, it's going to be a hot one today." I looked over to the horizon, then back to her, but like all characters in a dream, she was gone. For the longest time, I thought that just maybe it didn't happen. I scooped up my guitar and wandered into town. I saw black face after black face, and I got more and more suspicious with each one. I was in the heart of Tennessee and didn't see one white face. I stopped at a diner, and the black man behind the counter was there to seat me. "Say, brother!" My phone died up the road a piece, and I got to get back to my car. "Brother?" he said in an uncharacteristically white-sounding voice, as if confused. "Yeah, I can find you a charger," he said. He let me charge my phone, and when I got enough power, I checked the internet. There wasn't one face on it that wasn't black, not one. "I'll be damned," I whispered to myself. In the years that came, I realized that though there wasn't any white people, people were still the same. Everyone clicked up, and instead of skin color, everyone had a bug up their ass about nationality. Most of history played out similarly with a few differences, only color was not one of them. I had most of the friends I had back in the day, but any friend I had made that was white or not black was black now. The world had barely changed. Even slavery happened. It was ex-Africans in chains, but no white men holding the whips. Human nature was essentially unchanged. By year 5, I managed to get myself a family and have a few kids. I knew that I was going to die in a few years because of the deal, and knew I wasn't going to back out now. Life was relatively good for me. One night, my little baby girl said something to me that earwormed into my brain. She didn't mean anything by it, but she asked me if she was going to die. I had to have that awkward conversation about death with a 4-year-old, but honestly, that wasn't the part that bothered me. The woman said somehow I was running this simulation, as she put it. What exactly would happen when I died? The thought bothered me so much that I drove back down to Tennessee and went back to that same crossroads. I played my guitar just before pre-dawn and asked for that woman to appear. Lo and behold, she came huffing and puffing down the road in the same outfit as before. "Oh, look who's back. By my estimations, you have a year before this ends. You want to come out?" she asked with no malice or urgency. "No, I'm going to stick to it. I'll die if I have to. But what happens to the world when I'm gone? Does it go on?" "No," she said plainly. "I've made a life here. I have a wife and kids. You mean to tell me they die once I'm gone?" "Yes," she said, as if she didn't understand the question. "This simulation ends once you do. You only have so much energy in you before you burn out," she said. "What can I do? What can I do?" "I'll do anything," I said, begging on my knees. The woman smiled as if she knew it was coming. "Okay, if you want this world to continue, you have to get others to make wishes to power your universe and to power you." "How many?" The woman shrugged. "How long do you want it to go on?" I cried. "When I stop, this world ends." "Yes, but I'll eventually die, so it'll end anyway." "No, you don't actually have to if you make another deal, or you can just let it go and let the simulation end." "I can't." She pat my face lovingly. "I know you can't. Most don't." "Why are you doing this to me? You are a demon," I said angrily. "I ain't no demon. I made the deal the same as you." I froze and fell over in shock and horror. Does that mean my world wasn't real?" The woman shrugged non-committally. "What is real, baby? It's as real as you think it is. Then someone in your world made a deal with you." "Yes, then that means your world isn't real either." "Does it? Because it's as real as it needs to be." "Then when did it start? Who started it?" I pleaded. She shrugged again, then handed me a pen. "If you want the world to end, fine, then don't worry about it and do nothing. The more people you get, the better chance you have of your world not bottoming out." I looked at her hatefully, but ultimately I took the pen. Every decision was a choice, and a new reality created, so if I didn't give people choices, this reality was no more. Story 4. She wakes up for the first time, shaken from sleep by a sound that vibrates inside her skull, her body folded into itself. shimmers inside the disturbed membrane, the hazy tendrils of light refracting into her amniotic pod. Muscles twitch and ripple, and she kicks and tears through the surface, spilling into the outside world, gasping for her first breath. Short, dark hair clings to her face. As the neonate opens her eyes, her newly developed brain processes every sensory input frantically, each piece of data fluttering and firing across a network of neurons. The air is cold and disquieting, so unlike the calming pressure of her pod, where she had been padded in from all sides. Clothed in a white elastic fabric, her arms and legs are bare and pale. The room is hexagonal, the walls so high that it is impossible to see where the light is shining down from. Crossing her arms to shield her body, she sweeps her eyes around the room, trying to make sense of herself. There's that noise again, a brutal crashing sound. She screams and clamps her fists over her ears. Her brain lights up with the knowledge that she must act immediately or die. She notices the fine crack on the far wall, but it's too late. It shatters open, and another Queen candidate bursts in. She feels firm fingers close around her throat, the weight of another body on top of hers. She gags and swings up a bent arm. Another savage crack rings out. One she feels splintering on her elbow and coursing through her body. Her opponent shrieks and withdraws, blood pouring down her nose. Her pale face is completely wrecked, and her eyes, already large, bulge at the growing crimson blossom she has caught in her hands. In her terror, the would-be assailant doesn't have the time to react, doesn't see the second blow. A final smash echoes through the chamber. Two candidates lay motionless on the ground, one eliminated, the other allowing her newly hatched body time to reach homeostasis. Her chest, marked by the stains of her first kill, slowly returns to a regulated rise and fall. Even in rest, she doesn't let down her guard, knowing others may be just compartments away, lying in wait for the survivor to emerge. As she sits up, she revels in the strength she feels in her limbs, the instincts that sharpens her senses. She looks over at her fallen opponent, whose glassy eyes and face are replicas of her own. Wiping her mouth leaves a brushstroke of red down her chin. She rises and peers carefully through the broken wall into the neighboring cell. A figure suspends motionlessly in the pod inside, murdered in her prenatal sleep by a fitter sister. Blood unspools from the body like a plume of ink in water. The neonate passes through 4 more scenes like the one she survived, or the one she had investigated. Then lastly, through 3 cells that yield only an empty pod. The sight of these empty rooms chill her far more than the ones with bodies in them. 8 candidates total, 5 exterminated, and excluding her, 2 others who are still alive. The rooms are completely silent, and she knows now that she's been left behind, that her surviving sisters have already gone after the Queen to claim her crown. She feels it too, the mandate to destroy all competition for sovereignty and power. This is what each candidate has been made for, to prove herself the pinnacle of beauty, strength and superiority, to ascend as the next Queen for a new generation of prosperity. At this moment, the neonate senses it, a quiet thrum at the base of her skull. The gaze of the colony is on her. She looks about the empty cell, wondering how they are collectively watching and measuring her chances. Now that she has become aware, it seems so obvious, an ever-present hum against the silence. Beyond the hatching cells, the tessellating rooms have openings in 3 of their 6 sides, creating a meandering corridor with blind spots at every entrance. Keeping her weight on the balls of her feet, she steps lightly, moving with complete silence. The chambers are monochromatic, with white walls and floors meeting abruptly in panes of grey gradients. The geometry is maddening. Each entrance diverges into 2 possible exits, and she has no choice but to maneuver through the punishing loop of entrances and exits. It's not long before she finds the first bodies. Shriveled, desiccated, wasting away in these lonely, sterile halls, they are all versions of her, bearing the marks of their failure. Generations of potential queens with torn throats or crushed skulls, sprawled in heaps, or returned to a fetal posture in hexagonal corners, in patches of brown dust. The farther she goes, the more varied the disfigurements. Hollowed-out white faces, gaping black mouths or abdomens, death by violence and death by deprivation. She imagines these sisters' desperate spirals through these white catacombs, living out the rest of their days in hopeless labyrinthine wanderings. Holding back a tide of panic, the neonate breathes steadily, trusts her body, and the minute shifts in the air to take her like a current, dragging her forward in a rhythmic pull. The repetition is entrancing. She disassociates from the mechanical movements of her limbs. Her mind focuses on the presence of her audience, of her rivals who are a little ahead of her, of the queen deep in the colony, who is destined to die by her hand. She is certain of this. In her certainty, she has no interest in counting the number of cells she has passed through, or pay heed to how long she has been navigating through them. She allows herself to be swallowed whole, alive. The refinery. When honey-gold light spills out from one of the passages, the anomaly forces her to return to herself. Cautiously creeping forward, she covers her eyes from the garish haze of color, from the blast of heat that smothers her like a silky hot breath. The walls beyond here are constructed of yellow glass, transparent but mottled, distorting and refracting light all around her. If the white tunnels were clinical and unfeeling, these cells are pulsating and alive. The texture of the glass is oozing and bulbous, like the walls themselves are melting in the heat. The neonate squints and peers through the layers. Something moves several rows ahead, globules of shadows captured in amber, struggling before escaping from view. She breaks into a run, her pulse quickening. Fixing her eyes on the dark blobs bobbing ahead of her, she follows their movements and weaves in and out of cells with reckless abandon. She's certain it's her two surviving sisters, the three of them caught together in a honeycomb maze, glazed in sweat, so close to victory. She stops to catch her breath, the saturated air making it hard to breathe. She spins around in place, and only seeing her own warped reflection in the glass, she hisses, eyes darting, searching. Someone grabs a fistful of her hair to viciously smash her head against the glass. With just milliseconds to react, she throws up her hands to cushion the impact, but her brow slams against her knuckles. Stars burst as her retinas overload. Her sympathetic nervous system takes complete control. Pushing off the wall, she shoves back against her attacker, blinking blood and sweat out of her eyes. Fingers dig into the soft flesh at her neck, nails ripping apart skin and tissue. She lunges forward to snap a bite, and when her jaws grind down against bone, the resulting scream thrashes against the six-sided chamber. Both parties separate. The neonate spits out a clump of skin. A first glance at her adversary reveals a mirror image of herself, drenched in blood, eyes aflame. She flexes her hand, a sloppy crescent-shaped bite dashed across the top digits. Anger and intention bubble over in a visible expression. Her body, dressed in the carnage of her victims, vibrates with violence. There are no illusions about her current standing. Run. The command lights up her brain, and whether it's her own instincts or from an external source, she doesn't know, but she dare not disobey. Catapulting her body through the cells, she makes sudden turns to elude her pursuer, whose snarls and skidding feet are terrifyingly close. She knows exactly which way to turn, and is now certain that she is obeying a foreign instructor. In spite of her limited cognitive capacity, she begins to notice circular explosions in the walls. They lead her, getting closer in successions, tightening rosettes in yellow glass, a trail of someone's violent tantrums. Up ahead, a former facade is completely smashed through. Air from the opening circulates around her. The outside. The neonate is bidden to pass through. Rebelling against her possible savior, she slides to a stop, swipes up a large triangular shard, and turns to face her attacker. In a graceful, unbroken motion, she bends one knee to lunge forward, her arm gliding through the air. A perfect arc of blood pirouettes from the edge of her makeshift weapon, freckling the walls. Around them and beyond them, the colony buzzes with approval. The neonate drops her fragment. She gratefully drinks in the cool draft of air flowing in. When she turns around towards the shattered wall, she is unsurprised at the silhouette watching her from there. This candidate is clean and completely blameless, her clothes pristine. Yet the neonate knows that she is the firstborn, the mightiest of their cohort. Power and intelligence emanates from her frame. Why? The neonate poses the question. Why did you help me? The sister regards her with an unblinking gaze, and something about her energy is incomprehensible. With one foot outside of the cell, she has no designs on ascension. She answers the question with one of her own. Why do you want to be queen? The neonate narrows her eyes, contemplating the desire that had roiled inside her since the moment she was born, the unflappable knowledge of who she was meant to be. That is who I am. A bitter laugh. Who? Here. There is no I. There is only we. The light behind her is intense, unyielding. She looks at her younger sibling with an expression the latter doesn't understand, one so unlike the visceral hatred of their other sister, who now lays in ruins on the ground. Then an unspoken invitation. The neonate ponders the choice for the briefest moment. The jagged outline of glass refracts prisms all around the exit, glistening and beckoning. Outside is a world beyond the influence of the colony, a world of their own making where more than one survivor is permitted. But they both know what will happen. The mandate is too strong. With no need for further exchanges, the deserter retreats back into the light. It consumes her completely. Stepping over the corpse, the neonate flexes her digits, exults in her status as the final candidate. The queen is ahead. The garden. The throne room is the largest the neonate has seen so far, and as far as she knows, it's the center of the universe. The hexagon is so vast that the walls appear low here, removing the oppressive feeling of being closed in. For the first time she sees sky and open air. She's overwhelmed. The sapphire dome above radiates clean light below, casting a sapling hue on her tiny body. It's green all around, lush canopies, dew-studded sepals, beds of grasses, arched, wrought branches. A path cuts through a split sea of flowers that form towering waves on either side, bursting with colors she has never seen. The blossoms generously surrender their heady bouquet, anointing the queen-to-be with their fragrant accords. She promenades down the path, acutely aware that every single eye in the colony is watching her ascension. The garden is a graveyard, planted on rows of royal bodies whose beauty and reigns had long expired. She senses the roots entangling the skeletons below and drawing nourishment from the bones. After a lifetime of feeding the colony, the queens of the past continue to host new life. The neonate plucks the largest of blossoms. Soon she will provide the garden with a new offering. The path winds around a platform under an enormous tree where the queen is seated, awaiting her execution. Her hair is a long stream of black streaked with silver, flowing down, pooling on the stone around her. Winding and rising with each shallow step to land on the platform, the neonate stops directly in front of her predecessor. She reaches out, her hand perfectly planar, and brushes against the queen's jawline, drawing the soft fall of hair away from that placid face, from the pulsing artery in that white neck. At this, the queen lifts her gaze through dark lashes and makes direct contact with her successor. Bypassing the limitations of speech, she floods their connection, crowds out the influence of the colony. She allows the neonate to see herself in 20 years' time, clad in wildflowers and ivy, a sucked dry husk, waiting for her inevitable deposition. Once, not long ago, the queen had also seen this very moment when she looked deeply into the eyes of the woman that she too would strike down. An endless recursion of the seizure of power. She sees the skeletons beneath them, how they are linked to their victim on one hand, their murderess on the other, creating a highway to pass on their secret knowledge. The queen in her garden, manacled as the object of godlike power and adoration, adjusts the code in her offspring, tampers with the mandate in the heir candidates. In the beginning, these champions with their mutated genomes are immediately dispatched, but each subsequent generation gathers momentum and makes small deviations within each competition. And now, like the large crack in a glass wall that had suggested an alternative path, a break command is fully issued. Another truth rises up like pockets of air in deep waters, and something shifts within the neonate, recalls her to that expression the deserter had given her before she disappeared into the light. Compassion? An overwhelming warmth fills her chest, stretches her wide open to the agony of thousands of sisters, present, past, and future. No! The new queen lashes out, but the transfer is complete. She has everything needed to continue the cascade to the next cohort. Glassy eyes and a sad smile set permanently on the dead face at her feet. With her head raised triumphantly, the new sovereign basks in the worship of the colony all around her, the hum of legions forming a crashing wave. As she receives it, she knows that though she was not strong enough to disobey the natural law sewn into her genetic signature, one day, one of her daughters will.